everybody. Welcome. It's Tuesday, and that means it's time for Tuesday Night Chaos. We're the Wrestling Fan Insight team. We will be discussing the week that was AEW. My name is Carlos, and I'm not here alone with me. Today, joining me is, first of all, is Will. Will, how are you today?
I am fantastic. How are you, Carlos?
I'm doing great. Thank you. And then also, uh, Will's other half is brother John. John, how are you?
Other half? What the fuck?
His older half. How's that? His older half. Starting with the
know.
cuss words already, I see. All right.
I still don't know.
So is that the 50% I need to trim off before I take in?
Wow.
The other half of your guys' tag team, you guys are the brother tag team.
I don't know. John's
the hype of
struggling
your
with
daddy's
this over
type.
here.
I
John's over here struggling with this. I don't know what it was you said that got him, but jeez.
yeah, I'm at a loss for words on how to react to Carlos's choice words there.
What
So.
do you got a problem with being related to me, sir?
No, well, no, yeah.
I don't mean like a couple. Like, gosh, John, why do you got to take us so negatively? It's not June anymore.
Better half usually is the other types of meanings, but I didn't know we were going to go this route today.
Your family, brother is the other. Okay,
I was going to say, for crying
the
out
better
loud,
brother, the worst brother, the dumber brother. Okay, which one do you want?
I know we're Utahns, but we don't believe in that shit, man. No, just kidding. Or wait a minute, no, that's not how it meant to come out.
Oh boy.
Well,
it's been nice being with you guys. We're about to get canceled, so.
I don't know. That land down south is pretty close to a polygamous colony.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Modena.
Sweet. At least we won't be the total oddballs in the block, I guess. Anyways, yes. How you doing, Carlos?
Good.
All righty.
What did you guys think about the week that was AEW from what you guys got to see?
I thought AEW was excellent this week. There were a few questionable things, like what the fuck was that House of Black match?
Yeah, we'll get into that.
No, I thought AEW had a
strong week.
I thought they had for me, it wasn't strong, but it was consistent or solid. I just, there's a few things I think they could have done better. I just don't know if
they did a lot of cheap wins this week, and I think that's what bothered me about this week.
The cheap wins, they had technical difficulties at Battle of the Belts where we didn't see the outcome of the AEW Women's World Championship.
Yeah.
Granted, that's not on them, but yeah, this one just, I wouldn't say it was a strong week, but it was a solid week.
All right. So I thought it was a good week. My couple takeaways, again, we'll get more into it. But I think that Tony, I guess if you guys didn't realize this, we have, Ring of Honor's pay-per-views coming up this Friday. And I think we've had one match announced for us so far. And two matches, but one of them is having to be switched out because unfortunately Mark Briscoe is injured, and we do wish him a healthy or speedy recovery. So he won't be fighting Claudio anymore. But to me, I think it's just starting to show that Tony Khan can't handle booking all this stuff. I think the Ring of Honor product has really gone down lately. I think there's been some questionable booking with Battle of the Belts. We'll get into more Battle of the Belts and just how the flow with that and Collision came about. And I think he just needs to start trusting people and maybe being the final say instead of micromanaging the whole thing. And also just, as far as like using enhancement matches, like with their roster, I didn't need to see 2 enhancement matches on Rampage. And like you guys said, the House of Black match, sometimes don't worry about, you don't got to worry about the recipe. Like, oh, we need to have at least 4 matches. If you're going to have an hour-long match, just have the 3 matches. I really felt the same way. Like the House of Black match didn't really have a point of that. So I'm with you guys on that. So with that said, one match that I want to talk to you guys about was the debut of Nick Wayne and against Swerve in the main event of Dynamite. And I just thought it was a really good match. But let's just start with you guys. Will, what'd you think of it?
Honestly, I thought it was a killer debut. It wasn't too far off me considering it a banger. I think Nick is gold, and I think Swerve's going big places. The way they flowed together, this was an excellent match.
Yeah.
You definitely could tell Nick has been training for quite some time. If I remember right, he's been training since the age of 10 or 11.
Mm-hmm.
And being trained by his father, of all people, it really showed that he's got the fundamentals down. He's got the skills to handle a good match. I just think maybe he does less showboating and focus on move after move after move. I think this kid's going to have a killer career ahead of most of your talent you see today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like this match too. And for me, I'm old school. I mean, especially with being a gay wrestling fan, I'm more about I like my wrestlers that have the big bodies and stuff like that. So
Wait a
whenever
minute, you're
huh?
gay?
I know, right? No, who would have guessed, right?
Cameron Harley's really going to have a hard time.
Let me
Or
touch Max
Harley
Caster's
Cameron.
nipple here really quick. So my background here. Uh,
Sorry.
Left field
but
return.
But for me, and so whenever a wrestler so to me, I just talent wise, whenever a wrestler can really get to me with how they can tell a story and just by their overall athleticism and what they do, they earn extra brownie points for me, and I love this too. And I just think there's so many layers to this. The one thing that I loved was how kind of just Nick Wayne has really good storytelling. I liked how the end, he was almost reaching for Darby to help him. Oh shit, what did I get myself into, kind of thing. I thought that was kind of a really good play in for that. And then when Swerve got the win, and then also I think another good story thing they could be going into with this is just the fact that Darby and Nick Wayne can be the relationship that Darby and Sting have. So eventually, I think with Sting passing the torch down when he retires, and he can kind of go to Darby and be like, now it's your turn to mentor this kid. So I just really think that those are two really good things. And again, just the storytelling aspect of it, I thought, like I said, just the whole his mannerisms and reaching for Darby, oh my God, help me, and then him being it gave me that old 80s vibe to when you would see just a heel get demolished. A face get demolished and just getting really mad at the heel at the end. It kind of reminded me of Brian Pillman's matches with Sid Vicious. It was just really, really cool. So do you guys have any more thoughts about that match or what my comments were?
The only thing I want to say is I think they did a perfect job of who they chose to match up with Nick Wayne. They are extremely similar in the body build. Really, really, when the styles come together, I think they just made a proper match.
And keep in mind, this kid's 18, folks. I mean, most of your wrestlers usually make it to mid 40s, maybe early 50s if they stay in good shape. So I think we're going to see almost 3 decades plus out of this kid as long as he can stay healthy.
Probably.
And kudos to them too, for I love the whole video package too with the intro to this match. It just automatically got you invested in it. So again, just hats off for a job well done with AEW. So the next question is, so just with blood and guts, and not blood and guts, but Collision and Battle of the Belts yesterday, what were you guys' thoughts about just the way the booking was done and the match flow? And I'm curious to if you would have done anything different. I want to get your guys' comments first, and I'll kind of lay in with what I think, and then we'll track back to that. So why don't we start off with you this time, John?
The proper thing I would have done was I wouldn't even bothered having 2 separate programs. I would have just said, look, Collision's going to be a 3-hour event, and we're going to theme this as our Collision Battle of the Belts 7. That's the direction I would have went first off, especially if you're going to have the tag team championship match being 2 out of 3 falls go take up pretty much that first hour, which it did. I think it was a great tag team match overall. I think they did an awesome job getting the finals of both the Owen Hart Foundation, except for the finish of the men's. I didn't really care for the way that one ended. I think it could have been a little more solid decision having Ricky Starks go over CM Punk. Willow Nightingale gets the victory over Ruby Soho. Unfortunately, that's back-to-back finals. Soho made it and failed to be the winner. I scratching my coconut on that one. I mean, nothing against Willow Nightingale either. Please don't take that wrong, anyone. Willow Nightingale was just as much deserving as Soho to end up being in that match and taking it. So congrats to Willow Nightingale, though, and to Ricky Starks. The only displacement I had so far that entire night was the King of Black Throne in a squash match with 2 jobbers. I mean, this entire 3 hours had pretty much like pay-per-view or very strong main event level type matches, and they threw in a shit match. Why? You made why? If you needed a filler match, you could have done something better with two jobbers. I'm sorry. At least throw in something that, or a couple of people that the majority fan base would know. Other than that, I thought it was a solid night. Other than the other mishap, which that, as I mentioned earlier, the satellite in Canada going down, that kind of disrupted seeing the ending of the Tony Storm and Taya Valkyrie match. That was a kind of a bummer and bad timing, especially for Taya fighting in her home crowd there.
Yeah, this night was bittersweet for me. The FTR versus the Bullet Club Gold match was absolutely killer. I loved everything about it. Couple of the downers for me were Soho still getting screwed. She's still not getting her due. The House of Black match shouldn't have even happened. Of course, the cheap win for Starks kind of undid it for me. So I would put Collision at 50-50, and I didn't actually get to watch Battle of the Belts. I didn't realize it was right after, so I didn't get it recorded. But I'm taking a look at the results, and it just, I don't know, it didn't look that interesting to me.
All right. You first of all, you didn't really miss anything with Battle of the Belts. I like what John said. I definitely agree with that too. Like, I think going forward, especially if you're going to have Collision be on the same day as Battle of the Belts, you should just combine both shows into one. And again, like, you can still have it be a different show and have it be, like a different rating and stuff like that. Like, I remember like Raw used to be broken like that, where they would do like the War Zone, and then they would do Monday Night Raw just to try to get better ratings and to try to break it up. But I felt the same way as John did. I feel like the flow of the matches just should have been done. I think the smart thing that would have been done would have been to have I would have had FTR and the Bullet Club main event Collision, and then I would have had the first half hour and Collision, then I would have had the first half hour run into Battle of the Belts, and I would have just had that as a better flow to kind of get your viewership, and I get that they're trying to pop the number for Collision, but you got to just sometimes trust in the system and trust that if you're going to have a big card booked, that you're going to do well. And I agree with you guys. Like, and again, instead of like worrying about having a women's match on both shows, they should have just had the one women's match, with Ruby and Willow. And again, I feel bad for Taya Valkyrie too. Like, she's lost so many women's title matches. So like, what do they, I just don't like that she's been kind of like, she's like the Canadian Natalia for them. And then you got Ruby as the American one, it's like, and again, I don't think Willow needed the win because, I think that she was going to go on to win the Ring of Honor title. So I really wish that Ruby would have won. I think she deserves it for what she's brought to AEW. And I really wanted to see Ruby get this. So, and again, I love Willow too. And again, I think she's going to be the Ring of Honor Women's Champion come Friday. But so with that said, it should have already been, it should have been her that won. It should have been Ruby. But I just agree with you too. Like, that's my one thing going forward with Tony Khan. It's like, you have so many superstars, and I feel like my thing with them sometimes is I feel like he needs to be not afraid to give people losses, and I feel like he needs to just book stronger talent. Like, I didn't even understand, like, why he didn't just have Orange Cassidy go over on what's his name? I can't Lance Archer. Like, it should have just been a clean win. Like, Lance Archer hasn't even been around for months. Now it's like you're giving him a count out victory, so this is going to continue even more. It just didn't make sense. Like, I just think Tony Khan needs to be more assertive and being like, okay, you're going to go over tonight. You're taking a loss and just build a stronger card. What do you guys think about that point of view or insight?
I absolutely agree with it. I just don't want to see it turn into a Vince-esque kind of thing.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
I don't want it to turn into they're being manipulated and controlled to the point where they're being held back.
Gotcha.
It was a shit build for that match, period. There's just one Archer hasn't been on TV or been around, so why did he even have a shot for the championship other than beating up Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor?
Poor Trent, Chuck.
Yeah, I know. or or as Lance Archer called him, his Orange Cassidy's bitches. But yeah, the match didn't make sense. It would, for me, if Lance Archer had been on TV for another couple of weeks here and getting built up properly, I think it would make sense to see this championship match. But you could definitely tell this was just kind of thrown in out of the blue. And it really doesn't help Orange Cassidy's title reign when you do that either. I mean, build these matches up. I mean, we know he's taking on all comers, but this one just kind of made him look like a chicken shit with the way he won with that count out victory, and that doesn't do any justice for a champion.
What was it MJF said? I ran out of challengers.
Yeah. I don't think he's running out of challengers. They're just not building one up for him.
No, they haven't.
And I think, like, too, like, for me, like, especially for Battle of the Belts, like, why couldn't the Acclaimed and House of Black match happen this week? Like that should have been the main event of Battle of the Belts. You know, like, why are you saving it for next week when you already have Blood and Guts? It's like, to me, like, that should have, it made no point. Like, that's been the thing you've been building for the last 2 months. That should have been the payoff for Battle of the Belts. And I just think, for me too, the other thing was the crowd wasn't into Battle of the Belts at all. So I think that's where Tony Khan needs to realize he needs to book it stronger, because I know he's trying to keep the ratings for Collision, but it just felt so dead to me, because it was like you could just tell the crowd was out of it by the time that show came about. What are you guys' thoughts on that as well?
Well, let's look at Tony Khan's pay-per-view model.
Yeah.
You're looking already 1 hour just for 0 hour, right?
Yeah.
You're right after that, you're talking from, 8 Eastern to midnight for the rest of the card. That's 5 hours. You're pretty much worn down a crowd. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that we're loaded with matches, but I don't think we need 5 hours of matches and then another 2 hours of media scrum. I think one thing Tony could learn from WWE is keep those scrums to probably no more than an hour, but we also don't necessarily need 5 hours of wrestling either.
No, I typically lose my interest about 3 hours after.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're going to hold your pay-per-view on a Sunday when people got to go to work early in the morning the next day, that does not really help keep your audience active. I just think if he shortened the pay-per-view, whether it's going from 6 Eastern to 9 Eastern or, even 7 Eastern to 10 Eastern, but you don't want to wear your crowd out, and that's what happens. We see that in the middle of these events, and what's really sad is that's usually where he places the women's spot, is where the crowd is dead.
Right.
and that's he needs to get, as we mentioned earlier, he needs to get a creative team, but he also needs a team that kind of acknowledges where hour by hour where to place your matches where you need them to be. And I think that's almost what we've seen just with the combination of Collision and Battle of the Belts last night.
I really don't have anything to add to what you just said.
So just another thing off top, I'm going to go a little topic because you just reminded me of this when you said about that. So there's been a rumor this week that Warner Brothers Discovery wants AEW to do more pay-per-views, and I'm hoping with that means that they're going to hopefully move it over to Max streaming service. Do you guys think the product will be better with like a monthly pay-per-view or premium live event, system, or you think it's better the way it is right now?
I could see adding a couple more, but I don't want it to be like the WWE where there's, one every single month.
I think that's the problem with WWE right now with the monthlies is
it's too much. There's not enough time to properly build the stories all the way.
Well, that's the problem. The storylines get rushed and you don't really have a proper build to anything. The only thing they've had going good the last 3 years is the Bloodline storyline.
Yeah.
And I think now that we're starting to see it kind of come to a fold, what's going to be their next big storyline? I mean, they've really got to start thinking out of the box and start getting something going here.
Summer Rae returns.
Oh dear God, I hope not. But the problem is that's where WWE lacks right now. The one thing I've loved about AEW is 4 pay-per-views a year. That's fine. I'm not afraid of paying for the pay-per-view events. But if
Paying for
you're
the
gonna
what? Paying for the what?
pay-per-view events, but thank you, MV Streams, by the way, for that monthly subscription. So, yeah, it's just
If they are going to be tacking it on, yes, I would like to see it go to like Max or whatever.
yeah, but if they do that, then your fan base is going to want to get pretty much the same pricing as what WWE fans are getting through the Peacock network, $10 a month. I don't think AEW is ready for that yet, to be honest. I don't think as much as AEW is gaining popularity, I don't think they have as much of a fan base like WWE does. Because WWE, I'm not saying AEW is not seen global, but WWE has that global fan presence. I think if AEW was able to get more of the global presence, then we got a good situation here happening where you can get it down in that pricing. I just don't see fans wanting to pay full price pay-per-view price for 2 more pay-per-views a year or paying it for every month,
You dropped your screw.
I did. Screw you.
He's got 3 loose now. Drake.
Hey now. But no, I mean, if you know what I'm saying, if they do go the every month, don't be expecting fans to be paying, $60 a month for pay-per-views.
I absolutely wouldn't. I can tell you that right now.
There's no way in hell with today's wages and not being where they need to be, because everything's gone up but paychecks. That's what WWE, or not WWE, but that's what who is it that was looking to buy him again? Discovery or
Warner Brothers looking to buy
or
who?
Warner Brothers? Yeah, sorry. That's something Warner Brothers really needs to consider if they want AEW to go network based.
Do you guys subscribe to Max or no?
I do.
I don't, but I believe I've got those channels with MV Streams, so
Yeah. And for me, like I already subscribed to Max, so like for me, like if they went over there, it would be a bonus. And I do think that AEW would do a better job at doing monthly pay reviews, because I feel like they wouldn't. I think they could not worry so much like about having to have the same person on every show. Like to me, like I think that's something that WWE could do more with their television too. Is like build to a pay per view and storyline to where the payoff is every other pay per view. So, for example, like 1 month you have the SmackDown World Championship, the WWE Universal Championship on pay per view card, and then the next one is you have then the world title is the main event. Like you could just have storylines play out to where they don't have to be on every pay per view, so you do get the stronger builds. And because you're only doing like 7 matches on a pay-per-view. So I think that is one thing that would benefit AEW better, is I think they would do a better job of spacing them out. And then also you wouldn't have those 5-hour pay-per-views anymore, which I think would be kind of nice too. So the last topic of the day is blood and guts. So I have 2 questions for that. First of all, how excited are you for blood and guts this Wednesday? And then the other question is your predictions for that. And then also, are you upset that we're not getting a women's blood and guts? Let's start with you, John.
Oh, sure. Pin it on the fat kid.
Fat kids got to stick together.
That's true. To be honest, not really disappointed with no women's match yet. I still kind of feel like they need to get a creative team in there to build that women's division a little stronger. I'm not saying they don't have the talent of the women. They just need somebody who can creatively make sense out of it. Otherwise, I think we'd be seeing AEW Women's Tag Team Championship somewhere in there as well. But as far as Blood and Guts go, I'm looking forward to it. I just think it's going to be interesting seeing Pac, who's now joined the Blackpool Combat Club, especially his history with John Moxley when John Moxley was on his way to win his first AEW World Championship. So it's going to be quite exciting to see how they coincide with each other. But then you also look at the Elite, who now has Kota Ibushi coming, reuniting him and Omega as the Golden Lovers, but team all Elite all together. That one is, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how Kota Ibushi does here in the AEW brand. So, what's your thoughts?
As far as the women's Blood and Guts idea, I'm with you on that. They really do need to focus on building that up further. As far as the men's Blood and Guts, and I'm sure it's going to be entertaining. Yeah, of course, I'm excited to see it, but I'm also just kind of off on it about the fact that they just had to have that fifth member.
Yeah, like I mentioned last week. Okay, you already had each team missing one person.
Just leave it alone.
Yeah, I would have just left a 4-on-4. You made it harder than what it needed to be, especially on the creative standpoint.
You don't always have to put the sprinkles on top.
No, I would have just done 4-on-4 and left it as is.
But no, I think it is going to be a great match. I'm definitely excited to see Pac return.
So who are you thinking?
Oh, I absolutely believe that it's going to be the Blackpool Combat Club.
I'm right there with you. I feel Blackpool Combat Club comes out the victors on this. I just think they're more violent for the Elite.
They're more devious too. So, Carlos.
So I'm with you guys too as far as the women's match. Like I guess I'm disappointed we're not getting it because I think like 6 months ago or it felt like it just, or even 5 months ago, like it felt like this was like just gonna be in the cards, and it's just sad to me how it's dropped. And I feel like I feel like having a Blood and Guts match for the women would be the proper storyline, for the Outcasts. So I'm really kind of disappointed we're not getting that. But I agree with you guys too. Like I hope maybe just seeing it fall to the wayside is a good signal for Tony Khan and that fact, and the Will Washingtons and the Bryan Danielson, the other booking committee members, that they need to get this online. And I hope they don't shy away from bringing a Blood and Guts match maybe later on this year for the women. With you guys, that was my one thought about Tony Khan. I feel like, I mean, again, I don't know the whole thing with Kota Ibushi, but I think he should have been brought in earlier. If we would have been introduced to Kota Ibushi a month ago, like if he would have been there, and maybe he could have been a part of New Japan's show, because maybe him and New Japan aren't on the best of terms. But if he would have been brought in the week after that, it would make more sense as to why this is a 5-on-5 match, because I'm in the same agreement with you guys. It really doesn't make sense why it's a 5-on-5. They should have introduced Kota Ibushi earlier to this feud. Then it would make sense of why it's 5-on-5. But I agree with you guys too. Like it's weird. Like again, I hope that's just another future thing where they try to make stuff make sense storyline wise instead of just forcing it in. I'm in agreement with you guys. I do think Blackpool Combat Club is going to win this because I do think they are more devious. I think that winning this will also further Don Callis' family too. And of course, I'm gonna hold out hope, and I guess to bring out to hope maybe CM Punk gets involved and interferes, but I know it's not gonna happen. I guess that's my one last question for you guys to kind of piggyback to this. Do you think the wrong person turned heel? Do you think CM Punk should have been turning heel last night instead of Ricky Starks, or are you happy with Ricky Starks turning heel?
I actually really want to see where it goes with Ricky Starks, so I actually agree with Ricky Starks turning.
I find this a little interesting, especially with what happened with Powerhouse Hobbs last week.
Yeah.
As we know, we saw QT cost him the match. I think it's going to be interesting that we see if it goes the way I'm thinking, they're going to turn Will Hobbs face and then Ricky Starks heel. That
Gotcha.
especially with their exchange, just shortly after Starks lost the FTW championship to Hook. We saw Hook, or not Hook, but we saw Hobbs sit there, clothesline Starks in the back of the neck, showing that Hobbs was going to stay as the heel. Starks moves on as the face. Now it's almost a role reversal here. So, but it did shock me a little bit to see Ricky Starks grab that rope to get the win.
That irritated me.
Yeah, I'm like, he pretty much had him pinned without needing it.
Yeah, if he would have leaned any further forward, he would have been face first in the mat.
Yeah, I don't get it. But also want to give a big special shout out to David Benoit, who was in the crowd there and just having a good old time, and Punk actually going to talk to him shortly after that match. But it was very cool to see David Benoit there and having fun, and hopefully he wasn't getting too bombarded by everyone. According to Kimberly Ford, he wasn't, so sounded like the fans were pretty respectful.
Do you think they should have announced him as being there?
You know what? I can't really say. I mean, for me, I would have said no, but again, the focal point wasn't for him. It should have been on the talent on the card.
Yeah, no, I think it was the right call for them to not bring it to anybody's attention.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. Don't hold it on David for the hideous things his father did. I mean, that wasn't on David. He was the innocent person here. So just be very respectful for the guy. He couldn't control what his father did. Yeah, it is a bummer to see what Chris did to Nancy and the youngest son, but yeah, just don't hold anything on the poor guy. He's been through enough.
Yeah, it's a tough subject for me because Chris Benoit is one of my favorite wrestlers, and that's something I appreciate about Kurt Angle was, in his podcast, he doesn't shy away about talking about Chris Benoit, and talking about how he's like his greatest rival, and for me, like, they got to remember it was the drugs and the effects of steroids. There's a lot of things that, went into him doing what he did. So I think it's just time to move on and just to, admit that, it was the times of the wrestling, that time of wrestling and what the athletes were doing, and just kind of just look past that and move on to greener pastures. But I do agree too. I think it was the right decision not to announce them, but it's a hard subject for me for sure, because I was such a fan of Chris Benoit's. And do you guys think tag team wise, do you guys think the right team won, or would you have rather seen Bullet Club win the titles and then maybe FTR turn heel with CM Punk?
No, you're not going to say anything.
I will. Honestly, I felt like Bullet Club, it should have been their time.
Yeah.
50-50 for me.
Gotcha.
I think if FTR would have won, they should have attacked Bullet Club after and gone heel. But the problem is Bullet Club is a heel faction, so I don't know. Unless they're going to transition FTR's heels with CM Punk here in the near future, I say right call. But if they were looking to keep FTR's, well, that wouldn't make sense either. So I guess you can say I'm somewhat conflicted, but for now, I think the right move was FTR retains. The problem now is finding out the proper challengers, and we'll find out who the next contenders are here. I believe on Dynamite, right? For the blind eliminator tag match.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Dante getting injured out, I would actually say Top Flight and the Acclaimed would be top spot.
Well, I wish I would have just never took the belts off the Acclaim now, because I just feel like, but I mean, these two matches have been really great matches with Bullet Club Gold, but if they've done nothing with FTR as tag champions, and now that CM Punk's back, they're stuck in his vortex, So it's like they're not. So for me, like, I just think that was the theme of the whole show was, I think the wrong people won. Like Ruby should have won. I love Ricky Starks, but I would have loved to have seen a heel Punk win, and that start the heel thing too. And again, I would have liked to have seen FTR lose And then they don't need to turn heel. That could have been the start of their heel turn. Like, you guys didn't believe in us, and that's why we lost. So I appreciate you guys' thoughts on that, because I kind of felt the same way. Just want to see what you guys thought about that. Did you guys have any other thoughts about the AEW programming for the week? Right. So let's get into top fives. Oh, no. Do you guys have top fives for AEW?
I do. I
right.
did my homework.
Thank you. Someone was a good boy.
Oh, you mean you're not gonna call him Good Monkey?
Good Monkey.
There we go.
Yeah, that
Pat the Good Monkey on the
path. Okay, my number 5 is Ricky Starks. My number 4 is Nick Wayne. My number 3 is Mentalo. My number 2, Lance Archer, and my number 1 was obviously FTR and Bullet Club Gold.
Who was your number 3?
My number 3 was Mentalo.
What's that?
I think he means Mentayo. Is that his name?
Who?
He was the guy. He was the guy that took on shit.
He took on Takeshita.
Yeah, Kenosuke Takeshita.
And I was actually really impressed with his skills.
Oh, okay. The guy. Okay, the independent. Okay, gotcha. All right.
He was the black.
The jobber.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't correct us on spelling his name.
Because I just saw it was somebody that was I honestly once I saw it was somebody who wasn't on the main roster, like after the first matchup with Enhancement Talent, I was just taken out of the match. No, so again, kudos to you for paying attention, and to me it just took me out of the match.
He did a killer job for being there as a jobber.
Nice. All right. Did you have a top 5, John, or no?
Yeah, I'll just do one off the top of my head. So
that was good.
My number 5 went to Willow Nightingale, becoming the second lady to win the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament. My number 4 to Ricky Starks for winning the men's Owen Hart Foundation Tournament. My number 3 definitely goes to Nick Wayne. I thought he did a really fantastic job in his debut, not being too overwhelmed with the pressure of having that first match on national TV. My number 3 went to, believe it or not, MJF and Adam Cole, baby. Yeah, my number 1 definitely goes to the AEW World Tag Team Championship match that was on Collision. I don't know if that could have been any better than how they planned that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see because, because I don't know if you guys realized, but they had the AAA show yesterday. They had night 2 of the New Japan tournament, and then also there was Impact's Slammiversary. So Dave Meltzer made a comment. He's like, do you know how many 5-star matches I've given out in one day? Because I think there's gonna be a lot of 5-star matches coming out of that weekend, and I definitely think FTR and Bullet Club Gold will be one of them. So for my top 5, again, I went to Ruby Soho because, again, even though she lost, she did beat Sky Blue. And again, I love Ruby Soho. Number 4 was Ricky Starks and CM Punk. Number 3 is Willow Nightingale. Again, a big win. 2 big wins, for Ring of Honor Women's Champion and also Ruby Soho. Number 2 is Nick Wayne and Swerve because, you got to have a good dance partner to put on a good match. And my number 1 as well was just FTR and Bullet Club Gold. I hope that this is a trend of what's to come in AEW, because that was the one thing that really got me glued to AEW was their tag team wrestling and the tag team division. So I hope this is more of a sign of going back to what got him to the dance in the first place. And with that said, you guys have any shout outs for today?
No, I don't.
Will always seems to make it pretty easy for these shout outs. You know that?
I'm going to pass.
Yeah. So I want to give a big shout out to Sage Alvarez, the biggest guy involved in the Sage Dep Network. We've decided to affiliate with the group to try to help get us out there. And so far, we've been doing a stellar job getting out on Twitter and finding new Twitter conversations and whatnot. And also shout out to the 5150 Sports Show. They've been really awesome helping us retweet and comment as well. So thank you to each and every one of you that help us out there. Big shout out to Heather and Bryan again, who weren't able to make it with us on the recording today. So hope you two are doing well, and we'll talk to you later.
And I'm going to just a shout out again to Ted the Hillbilly Heel. Keep the content coming. I love checking out your show every week. The Wrestling Truth, Distinguished Gentlemen, We Laugh, We Learn. And just anyone, all those people who help us out, Patrick and the sports affiliates, right? That's it.
Yep.
them as well. Just Sin City Haven, just all the people who interact with me. I really appreciate you guys. And with that being said, thank you for letting me host today. It was kind of fun, and I'll let you guys handle the closing credits.
All right. Well, a big thank you to StreamYard and Spotify for podcasters on becoming our newest platform and home to creating and hosting the latest episodes of the Wrestling Fans Insight. They've made it possible to listen to our show on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more.
If you happen to like our show, we would appreciate a 5-star review. And if possible, leave us a review for us to read on the air for our future recordings.
And feel free to go to our website, www.wrestlingfansinsight, insight spelled INCITE.com, and subscribe to get notified of our latest releases. You will also be able to find links to our show on your favorite listening platform.
You can interact with us in many ways. We have a Facebook group called the Fans of Pro Wrestling, or on Twitter. My handle is at WilliamHoppe8. John?
You can interact with me at wfincitepod. Carlos?
At C to the LOS 77. I also have my nonprofit at Conquer the No, and also on Instagram, Rainbow Goodness _.
Awesome. And we'll be back on July 23rd for Sunday Takedown with some of our topics from WWE. And until then, please be safe, be kind, and until next time, please keep being awesome.
Awesome.
Easy, feller.